The celebration on Prime could be seen from orbit. Lights blazed across the capital city as millions gathered to witness another victory. Supreme Commander Al stood on the grand balcony, his four arms raised high as the crowd roared below. Behind him, holographic displays showed the burning remains of the collective's last defense station. 847 systems now bow before the Dominion, Al announced, his voice amplified across the entire planet. No force in this galaxy can stand against us. We are destiny itself. The crowd erupted in cheers. Al's scaled face showed no emotion, but inside he felt the familiar satisfaction of absolute power. 3 centuries of conquest had proven one simple truth. The strong ruled and they were the strongest. In the council chambers beneath the palace, War Architect reviewed star charts with cold precision. She had commanded 40 campaigns in her career. Not a single defeat marked her record. Her reputation alone made species surrender before the first shot was fired. The Outer Rim territories remain, she said to the assembled council. 12 minor systems, primitive worlds barely worth our time. Yet they must fall, council member or replied. Total dominion requires total conquest, no exceptions. In nodded, the Way demanded nothing less. Their empire stretched across half the known galaxy, held together by superior technology and absolute military power. Their warships numbered in the thousands. Each carried weapons capable of cracking planets. Their energy shields had never been penetrated. Their quantum disruptors turned matter itself into dust. We should begin with the easiest targets, another council member suggested. Build momentum before facing any resistance. There will be no resistance, In stated flatly. There never is. A junior officer approached, hesitating before speaking. War Architect, a scout ship has returned from the Outer Rim. They bring unusual data. In gestured for the report. The officer projected a holographic star chart showing a yellow star system. A red warning symbol pulsed around it. The Sol system, the officer explained, marked as forbidden by the precursors. The precursors are extinct, or scoffed. Dead for 10,000 years, their warnings mean nothing. Perhaps they found something dangerous, the officer ventured carefully. In studied the data. Scans show a Class G star with 8 planets. The 3rd planet supports life. Initial readings indicate a primitive species. They have barely left there. And the precursors feared them, or laughed. Impossible. The precursors feared many things, In said. It made them weak. That is why they are extinct and we are not. She zoomed in on the 3rd planet, Earth according to the ancient precursor database. Blue and green covered in water and vegetation, it looked peaceful, harmless. Recommend we add this system to the conquest schedule, In announced. The council should vote. The vote was unanimous. Earth would fall like all the others. Across the galaxy, Fleet Admiral stood in the observation deck of the carrier Defiant. Before him, the stars stretched endlessly. Somewhere out there, humanity's future waited. He just hoped it would be a peaceful one. Admiral, the morning briefing is ready, Captain Laura Hayes said, approaching from behind. She carried a data pad filled with reports from Earth's scattered exploration fleet. Turned from the window, anything interesting. 3 new mineral-rich asteroids in the belt. Colony ship Nova reached station safely, and the deep space array picked up something odd near the outer markers. Odd how? Laura pulled up a recording. Strange energy signatures, patterns that matched no known natural phenomenon. Could be a pulsar we haven't cataloged, could be something else. Had been in space long enough to know the universe held surprises. Humanity had only been exploring beyond Sol for 15 years. Every day brought discoveries that changed everything they thought they knew. Keep monitoring it, he said. Alert me if it changes. The Defiant was one of 200 ships in Earth's defense fleet. Not much by galactic standards, if there even were galactic standards. Humanity had detected scattered radio signals from other civilizations, but made no contact. First contact protocols demanded caution. The universe could be friendly or hostile, and humanity would only get one chance to make an impression. Walked through the ship's corridors, observing the crew at work. Marines ran combat drills in the training bay, their bodies moving through exercises designed for Earth's heavy gravity. Engineers checked weapons systems that had never been fired in actual combat. Medical staff prepared for emergencies they hoped would never come. You think we'll meet anyone out here? Laura asked, walking beside him. Eventually, said, the question is whether they'll be friends or enemies. Optimist. Realist, we've been listening to the stars for a century. We know we're not alone. Someone's out there. They reached the bridge where the command crew monitored every sensor and system. Lieutenant Jake sat at the fighter coordination station, reviewing patrol routes. Engineer Danny argued with someone over the comm about power distribution. Dr. Phillips checked in from medical, confirming readiness status. Everything ran smoothly, everything felt normal, had learned to distrust that feeling. Admiral, the communications officer, called out. We're receiving a transmission, source unknown. It's coming from the outer system. Put it through. Static filled the bridge, then a voice spoke in thousands of languages simultaneously. The universal translator struggled to process it, eventually settling on English. Warning, warning. Ancient protocols activated. They come from death itself. Prepare, prepare. They come from death itself. The message repeated 3 times, then cut off. Silence filled the bridge. Every crew member stared at their stations, processing what they had just heard. Was that the odd energy signature? Asked. Laura checked her data. Same location, it's a precursor beacon. We've never seen one active before. They come from death itself, Jake repeated quietly. That's not ominous at all. Felt his instinct screaming. Something was wrong, something was coming. Bring all ships to alert status, he ordered. I want long-range sensors sweeping everything beyond Neptune. If anything enters this system, I want to know about it. Sir, that seems excessive for an old recording, said. The precursors didn't leave warnings for fun, replied. They knew something we don't. For the next 6 hours, nothing happened. The fleet remained on alert. Sensors swept the outer system constantly. Earth's governments were briefed on the situation. Diplomatic protocols were reviewed just in case. Then, at the edge of detection range, the sensors picked up something new. Admiral, multiple contacts appearing near the belt, the sensor officer reported. Mass readings are enormous. I count over 400 distinct signatures. Blood ran cold. Visual. The main screen shifted, showing a grainy image of the outer system. There, emerging from faster-than-light travel, was a fleet unlike anything humanity had imagined. Massive warships, each larger than Earth's biggest carrier. Strange designs that spoke of technology far beyond human achievement, and there were hundreds of them. Someone get me Ambassador Foster, said quietly. Tell him we need to make first contact, right now. A new transmission came through. This time, the voice was clear and filled with absolute confidence. Primitive species of Sol 3. I am Supreme Commander Al of the Dominion. You will surrender your system within 48 standard cycles. Resistance will result in your complete extermination. This is your only warning. The transmission ended. Laura looked at, what do we do? Stared at the fleet on the screen. 400 warships against 200. Advanced technology against primitive weapons. An empire that had conquered nearly 1,000 systems against a species that had never fought a space battle. We prepare for war, he said, and we pray the precursors were warning them about us, not the other way around. Ambassador Foster had imagined first contact many times. In his dreams, it always involved friendly greetings and cultural exchange, not a countdown to extinction. He stood in the communications center, reviewing the message from the Dominion for the 10th time. 48 hours. Surrender or die. Not much room for negotiation. We need to try talking to them, insisted to the assembled military commanders on the video feed. War should be the last option, not the first. They've given us no choice, Admiral replied from the Defiant. Their message was clear. This isn't a negotiation. Every conflict starts with misunderstanding. Let me at least try. Nodded slowly. You have 12 hours. After that, I'm assuming they're hostile and preparing accordingly. Worked through the night, crafting a response that emphasized humanity's peaceful intentions. He included data about Earth's culture, history, and desire for friendship. He showed images of human achievements, art, music, science, everything that made humanity worth knowing. The response he received was brief. In's face appeared on screen, her alien features twisted in something resembling amusement. Your culture is irrelevant. Your achievements are insignificant. You have 36 hours remaining. Meanwhile, aboard the flagship, War Architect Inn studied the preliminary scans of Earth with growing disinterest. Another primitive world, another easy conquest. She had seen hundreds like it. War Architect, the science division has completed their environmental analysis, junior scientist reported nervously. The results are unusual. Show me. Projected the data in expected standard readings. Comfortable gravity, mild atmosphere, stable climate. What she saw made her pause. Gravity 1.8 times standard, she read aloud. Atmospheric pressure 1.5 times standard. Temperature variations from -40 to +60 degrees. Oxygen content at 21%. She looked up. These readings are incorrect. Run the scan again. We have, War Architect. 5 times, the readings are accurate. In studied the data more carefully. The planet was covered in a corrosive liquid called water. 71% of the surface was submerged. The atmosphere contained oxygen levels that would be toxic to most species. The gravity alone would crush her within hours. This is she said slowly. Class 12, according to the classification system, confirmed. Only 3 other Class 12 worlds have been documented in known space. All are uninhabited. Yet these humans live there naturally. Born and raised in these conditions, they have adapted to survive in an environment that would kill most galactic species within minutes. In pulled-up records of other species, there had been a few throughout history, tough, resilient creatures, but always small in number, easily overwhelmed by superior technology and tactics. Their environment is harsh, she concluded, but that means nothing against our weapons. A still dies when hit with a quantum disruptor. Yes, War Architect, said, though uncertainty colored his voice. On Earth, humanity prepared for the impossible. Every military base went to full alert. Orbital defenses came online. The 200 ships of the defense fleet moved into formation around the planet. Captain Laura Hayes ran her crew through combat drills aboard the Defiant. They had trained for this scenario, but training and reality were different things. The enemy had twice as many ships. Their technology was centuries more advanced. Focus on what we can control, she told her tactical officers. Speed, coordination, and determination. We're defending our home. That has to count for something. In the engineering section, Danny worked frantically to upgrade weapon systems. The problem was simple. Human weapons were designed for human ships. They had no idea if they would even scratch shields. We need to think differently, he muttered to himself, running calculations. Their shields work on energy frequency harmonics. If we can find the right frequency, we might be able to disrupt them. It was a theory, nothing more, but it was all they had. Dr. Phillips prepared medical facilities for casualties. She tried not to think about how many beds she might need. Instead, she focused on training her staff, ensuring every medic knew their role. Fighter pilot Jake sat in his cockpit, running pre-flight checks. His squadron, called the Terran Guard, would be first into combat. 36 pilots against hundreds of enemy fighters. The odds were terrible, but Jake had never backed down from a challenge. Remember your training, he told his pilots over the comm. Stay in formation, watch each other's backs, and if you get a shot, make it count. As the deadline approached, made one final attempt at peace. He broadcast directly to the fleet, speaking from the heart. We are a young species, he said. We've only just reached the stars. We have no interest in conflict, but we also will not surrender our freedom without fighting for it. Please, there must be another way. Supreme Commander Al himself responded this time. You speak of freedom as if you deserve it. The strong rule, the weak serve. This is the natural order. You are weak, therefore you will serve. You don't know anything about us, replied. We know enough. Your world is harsh. Your species has adapted to difficult conditions. This is mildly interesting. It changes nothing. The transmission ended. Looked at the clock. 6 hours remained. Aboard the flagship, Al met with his senior commanders. The humans refuse to see reason. When the deadline expires, we begin the assault. Target their military installations first. Once their defenses fall, they will surrender. What of their origins? One commander asked. Irrelevant. Yes, they are tough. Yes, they come from a harsh environment, but toughness means nothing against overwhelming firepower. We have conquered species far more advanced than these primitives. In reviewed the tactical data, something bothered her, though she could not identify what. The human fleet was positioning itself between Earth and the Armada, a defensive formation, standard for a weaker force. But the humans showed no signs of fear. Their communications revealed no panic. They prepared for battle with grim determination, as if they genuinely believed they could win. Foolishness, she decided, or ignorance. Perhaps they truly did not understand how outmatched they were. Stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching the countdown. Around him, his crew worked in focused silence. Every system showed green. Every weapon was ready. Every ship in the fleet reported combat ready. Laura approached him quietly. The crews are asking what we're fighting for, besides survival. Consider the question. We're fighting because someone has to. They have conquered hundreds of worlds. If we don't stop them here, they'll keep going. Someone has to say no. Even if it costs us everything. Especially then. The final hour arrived. The fleet began advancing into the inner solar system. Their formation was perfect, their confidence absolute. They had done this hundreds of times before. The human fleet moved to intercept near Mars' orbit. The distance between the two forces closed slowly. Every second brought them closer to a battle that would determine humanity's fate. Opened a fleet-wide channel. This is Admiral. In a few minutes we're going to face an enemy that has never lost a battle. They think we're primitives. They think we're weak. They think our harsh world means nothing against their technology. He paused, letting his words sink in. They're about to learn what it really means to come from Earth. Every one of us was born in gravity that would crush them. We breathe air that would poison them. We live on a world that kills without mercy. And we don't just survive, we thrive. Across the fleet, crews straightened in their seats. Hands gripped controls with renewed determination. They chose this fight, continued. They came to our home. They threatened our families. They gave us no choice. So we're going to show them exactly why the precursors warned about. We're going to show them that some species refuse to kneel. He closed his eyes for a moment, thinking of Earth below, blue and green and beautiful. Worth figged the first salvo from the fleet tore through space like lightning. Quantum disruptors, energy beams, and plasma torpedoes struck the human formation with devastating force. 3 ships exploded in the opening seconds, their shields overwhelmed by technology centuries ahead of Earth's. War Architectin watched from her command ship with cold satisfaction. Maintain formation, target their larger vessels. This will be over within the hour. The human fleet scattered, trying to avoid the concentrated fire. Admiral gripped his command chair as the Defiant shook from a near miss. On the tactical display, red indicators showed damaged ships, destroyed ships, ships desperately maneuvering to survive. Return fire, he ordered. All weapons full spread. Human missiles and energy weapons struck shields and dissipated harmlessly. The enemy's defense systems were everything intelligence had feared. Nothing was getting through. Admiral, we've lost the carriers Valiant and Resolute, Laura Hayes reported, her voice tight. The Beijing is reporting critical damage. They're requesting permission to withdraw. Every ship holds position. On his fighter screen, Lieutenant Jake led his squadron through a storm of enemy fire. Interceptors moved to engage, their ships faster and more maneuverable than anything humanity had built. Or so they thought. Break formation, Jake ordered. Individual attack runs, make them work for it. He threw his fighter into a sharp turn that pulled 12 gravities. His vision narrowed as blood struggled to reach his brain despite the pressure suit. Behind him, an interceptor tried to follow and failed. The pilot passed out from forces his body could not handle. Jake's targeting system locked on and fired. The enemy fighter exploded. Did you see that? One of his pilots shouted over the comm. They can't handle our G-forces. Then make them chase us, Jake replied, already diving into another aggressive maneuver. Aboard the flagship, alarms began to sound. Commander, we're registering unexpected losses in the fighter screen. The human pilots are executing maneuvers our interceptors cannot match. Al studied the data with growing concern. Explain. The acceleration forces involved should be lethal, yet the humans survive them. Our pilots are losing consciousness trying to follow. In reviewed combat footage showing human fighters pulling turns and rolls that violated every principle of safe flight. They're gravity, she realized. They've adapted to forces that would kill us. It doesn't matter, Al insisted. Our capital ships will destroy them, continue the assault. But something else was going wrong. Human ships that should have been destroyed kept fighting. The carrier Phoenix took 3 direct hits that penetrated its shields and tore open its hull. Standard doctrine said it should withdraw or surrender. Instead, it kept firing, its remaining weapons targeting cruisers with desperate accuracy. Captain Laura Hayes commanded the Defiant through the chaos. 60% of the ship's hull was breached. Life support was failing on 3 decks. Half the weapons were offline, yet her crew continued fighting with grim determination. "Engineering, I need more power to forward shields," she called out. "We're already past safety limits," Danny replied over the comm. "Any more and we risk reactor breach." "Then we risk it. Keep us in this fight." In the medical bay, Dr. Phillips worked on a steady stream of casualties. Burns, broken bones, pressure injuries. The wounds were terrible, but what amazed her was how the patients kept asking when they could return to duty. Even with shattered limbs and serious trauma, they wanted to keep fighting. "You're in no condition to go anywhere," she told a Marine with severe burns. "Doc, my squad needs me." "Your squad needs you alive. Stay down." Danny worked frantically in engineering, trying to find any edge against the shields. The energy harmonics data was scattered across his screens. There had to be a pattern, something they could exploit. Then he saw it, a specific frequency resonance that appeared whenever the shields blocked incoming fire. It was like the shields were ringing like a bell, and that ringing had a pattern. "Admiral," he called up to the bridge, "I think I've found something. Their shields use a rotating frequency modulation. If we can match the rotation and fire at the right moment, we might penetrate." "How certain are you?" "About 30%, but it's better than 0%. Made the decision instantly. "Send the data to all ships, weapons using frequency pattern. All vessels coordinate fire on the nearest cruiser, on my mark." The human fleet, battered and desperate, focused their remaining weapons on a single target. They synchronized their fire, waiting for the precise moment when the enemy shield would be vulnerable. "Mark!" Dozens of energy beams and missiles struck the cruiser simultaneously. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the shields flickered, failed, and weapons punched through into the hull. The cruiser exploded in a brilliant flash. Silence fell over both fleets for a moment. Then chaos erupted. "Impossible," In whispered, staring at the debris field. "No one has ever penetrated our shields." "They found the frequency vulnerability," her science officer reported in shock. "They analyzed our defensive systems in the middle of combat and developed a countermeasure." Al's voice boomed across the command channel. "All ships, adjust shield frequencies to random rotation. Do not allow them time to adapt again." But the damage was done. The humans now knew the shields could be beaten. Morale surged through the human fleet like electricity. They could win. They could actually win. Saw the shift in the battle immediately. "All ships press the attack. Target their ships individually. Don't give them time to coordinate." The human fleet, smaller and damaged, began fighting with renewed ferocity. They used tactics they had never encountered. Damaged ships deliberately rammed enemy vessels, trading their lives for strategic kills. Boarding pods launched from crippled cruisers, sending Marines into ships. In one such boarding action, 30 human Marines cut their way into a destroyer. The ship's crew fought back with energy weapons and superior numbers. But in the close quarters of ship corridors, the humans dominated. A soldier stood 2 meters tall with natural armor plating. A human Marine stood barely 1.7 meters with only combat gear. In any fair fight, they should win. But the human moved with speed and strength born from Earth's crushing gravity. Bones developed under 1.8 G did not break easily. Muscles trained to lift weight in heavy gravity hit with devastating force. The Marine disabled 3 soldiers in seconds, his enhanced strength overwhelming their defenses. The rest of the squad moved with coordinated precision, clearing the ship deck by deck. "What are these creatures?" A commander radioed desperately before his transmission cut off. And realized with growing horror that her forces were in trouble. They had superior numbers, superior technology, superior everything. Yet the humans refused to break. They absorbed damage that should destroy them. They adapted to tactics that should confuse them. They fought with a determination that logic. "War Architect, recommend we withdraw and regroup," her tactical officer suggested. "We need to develop new strategies." "The Dominion does not retreat," she replied automatically, but even as she said it, she knew the truth. They were losing. More human breakthroughs followed. Jake's fighter squadron destroyed an entire carrier, exploiting weaknesses in its point defense. Danny refined his shield penetration technique, increasing the success rate. Dr. Phillips kept wounded personnel functioning when they should have been dead, her medical knowledge tested beyond its limits. As the battle wore on, the advantage diminished. Their fleet had the numbers, but human desperation equalized the odds. Every human ship fought like it had nothing to lose. Every human soldier pushed beyond normal limits. Because they had no choice. There was no retreat, no surrender, no alternative. They were defending their home, their families, their entire species. They were used to enemies who would surrender when faced with overwhelming force. Humanity did not surrender. Al watched his fleet take losses unlike any he had commanded. 50 ships destroyed, 100 damaged. The humans were costing him dearly for every meter of space. "Pull back to Jupiter orbit," he finally ordered. "We need to regroup and request reinforcements." For the first time in 3 centuries of conquest, a fleet retreated. Watched the enemy fleet withdraw and felt something he had not allowed himself to feel. Hope. "They're pulling back," Laura said in disbelief. "We did it. We actually held them off." "We survived," corrected, "but they'll be back, stronger, ready for us." Around Earth, the battered human fleet began rescue operations and damage control. They had lost 60 ships. Thousands were dead or wounded. The cost had been terrible. But they had won the first battle. On Earth, celebrations erupted in every city. Humanity had faced an unbeatable enemy and lived. The news feeds showed the burning cruiser, proof that the invaders could be hurt. Foster appeared on every broadcast, his message carefully crafted. "Today we proved that Earth's children are not weak. We proved that determination and courage can stand against any threat. But this is only the beginning. The enemy will return, and we must be ready." In the days that followed, long-range sensors detected something that changed everything. The Galactic Council, the governing body of civilized species, had been watching the battle. They sent a message to Earth. "You have impressed us, humans of Earth. The Dominion has terrorized the galaxy for centuries. No species has ever successfully resisted them. Until now, we wish to speak with you." Read the message 3 times before believing it. Humanity was not alone in this fight. Other species had been watching, waiting for someone to stand up to the... "Ambassador Foster," he called. "You're going to get your chance at diplomacy after all. We need to tell that the Galactic Council chambers floated in neutral space, a massive station that served as the meeting ground for 43 civilized species." Ambassador Foster walked through corridors that had hosted diplomats for thousands of years, very aware he was the first human to ever enter this place. Around him, aliens of every description moved about their business. Some walked on 2 legs, some on 6. Some breathed oxygen, others required exotic atmospheres. All of them stopped to stare as the passed by. "They're afraid of you," his guide explained, was a small, gray-skinned being who served as a junior diplomat. "Word has spread about what your species did to the fleet." "We just defended ourselves," replied. "No one defends themselves against the... They have conquered 847 systems. Entire civilizations kneel before them rather than face extinction. You fought them and won. We survived 1 battle. They'll come back stronger. Which is why the Council wants to meet with you." The Council chamber was circular, with seats arranged in ascending tiers. Representatives from dozens of worlds sat in judgment, their attention focused on the human standing in the center. Felt the weight of their stares but kept his composure. Council Speaker, a being that looked like flowing water held in a transparent membrane, addressed him. "Human Foster of Earth, you stand before the Galactic Council to answer for your species' actions against the Dominion." His heart sank. "Answer for defending ourselves." The Dominion is recognized by this council as a legitimate government. Attacking their fleet constitutes an act of war. "They attacked us first. They gave us no choice. They offered terms of surrender. You rejected those terms." Felt anger rising. "You want us to surrender to an empire that has enslaved hundreds of worlds. That destroys anyone who resists." "We want peace," replied coldly. "They are powerful. Fighting them brings only suffering. Most species choose submission over annihilation." "Then most species are cowards." Shocked whispers filled the chamber. Grabbed Sarm urgently. "You cannot speak to the council that way." Why not? It's the truth. You all hide behind words like peace and diplomacy while an empire conquers everything it sees. Where was the council when they were destroyed? Where was the council for the 846 systems before them? Its watery form rippled with anger. We survived by being practical, something your species has yet to learn. We survived by fighting back. A new voice spoke from the upper tiers. And you did more than survive, you made them retreat. The speaker was a massive creature covered in crystal formations. I am of the Republic. 50 years ago, the conquered my people. We chose surrender over extinction. We have regretted it every day since. Other voices joined in. Species that had been conquered, species that lived in fear, species that had watched the grow stronger while the Council did nothing. Earth's actions have inspired questions, continued. If one primitive species can resist, why cannot we? Why have we accepted this tyranny for so long? Because resistance means death, snapped. The human fleet is damaged. When the return with reinforcements, Earth will fall. Then who will you look to for inspiration? Stepped forward. Then help us. Your species have technology we need. You have resources, intelligence, military strength. Together we could stand against them. United resistance only makes the angry, another council member argued. They will punish all of us. They'll conquer all of you eventually anyway, shot back. One system at a time until nothing remains free. The only question is whether you fight back or kneel. The debate raged for hours. Some council members supported Earth. Others feared retaliation. The council seemed deadlocked, unable to make a decision that would change galactic history. Then stood his crystal body reflecting the chamber's lights. The Republic pledges alliance with Earth. We will provide ships, supplies, and warriors. It is time we stopped running. The collective also pledges support, another voice called out. The Assembly stands with Earth. One by one, species that had suffered under aggression or feared becoming the next target declared their support. Not all the Council agreed, but enough did. A coalition was forming. Back on Earth, Admiral received the news with cautious optimism. How many ships are they offering? They can provide 500 vessels, Laura Hayes read from the report. They have 300. Smaller species are contributing what they can. Combined with our rebuilt fleet, we'll have nearly 3,000 ships. Against how many? Intelligence suggests they're assembling 5,000 warships. Supreme Commander Al has declared total war. They're not holding anything back this time. Study the tactical projections. Even with Allied support, the numbers were against them, but numbers weren't everything. The first battle had proven that. Where do we make our stand? The frontier station, Laura suggested. It's a strategic, force them to fight on our terms. The station won't survive the battle. I know, Laura's face was grim. Someone will need to stay behind and man the defenses, buy time for the main fleet to attack. Knew what she was suggesting. A suicide mission. Someone would have to hold the station while the fleet maneuvered. Those defenders would not survive. Start looking for volunteers, he said quietly. And Laura, thank you for being willing. Someone has to do it, sir. Across the fleet, preparations accelerated. Engineers from a dozen species worked together, sharing technology and techniques. Danny found himself teaching alien engineers about human weapon systems while learning about exotic energy sources from beings who breathed methane. Your species builds everything so solid, an engineer observed. Our ships are lighter, faster. Earth's gravity makes us build heavy, Danny explained. Everything has to withstand more stress, but it means our ships can take more damage. And your weapons? Crude but effective. We make up for precision with raw power. The cultural exchange went beyond engineering. Dr. Phillips trained medical staff from 20 different species, learning alien biology while teaching human anatomy. The differences were fascinating. Some species could regenerate lost limbs, others had backup organs, but none had the sheer toughness of humans. Jake's fighter squadron expanded to include pilots from allied species. Training proved challenging. What felt normal to Jake sent his alien to the medical bay. You pulled 8 gravities in that turn, a pilot complained after a practice session. I nearly passed out. That was a gentle turn, Jake replied. In combat, I'll hit 12 or more. How do you survive that? Practice, pressure suits, and growing up where gravity wants to kill you. The phrase became a rallying cry across the fleet. Growing up where gravity wants to kill you. The of Earth, bringing their harsh world's lessons to the galaxy. Remained at the Galactic Council, coordinating the coalition. More species joined each day, inspired by humanity's example. They shared intelligence on tactics, weaknesses in their technology, and historical battles. They have one critical flaw, explained. They have never faced united resistance. Their entire military doctrine assumes the enemy will eventually break. They don't know how to fight an opponent who refuses to surrender. Then we make sure they learn, said. On Prime, Supreme Commander Al gathered the largest fleet in history. 5,000 warships, each commanded by veteran officers. An invasion force capable of sterilizing entire worlds. This time there would be no mercy, no second chances. The humans have inspired rebellion, he told his assembled commanders. Species that should bow before us now speak of resistance. This cannot stand. We will destroy Earth completely. No survivors, no prisoners. Let the galaxy see what happens to those who defy us. War Architect led the vanguard. Her orders were simple. Break through at Frontier Station, destroy any opposition, and proceed to Earth. She had studied the human tactics from the first battle. This time, they would be ready. As both fleets prepared, gave his final address to the assembled forces. Humans and dozens of other species watched as the human admiral spoke. I won't pretend this will be easy. The enemy has more ships, better technology, and centuries of experience. They expect us to break. They expect us to run. They expect us to surrender like everyone else has. He paused, looking at the diverse crews before him. But we're not like everyone else. We learn to survive where survival should be impossible. We learn to stand when standing seems foolish. We learn that sometimes fighting impossible odds is the only choice that matters. His voice grew stronger. They have won for 300 years. They think they're unbeatable. They think they're destiny itself. Today we prove them wrong. Today we show the galaxy that tyrants fall when good people refuse to kneel. Today we rewrite fate. The fleet erupted in cheers. Thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds, united by a simple truth. Freedom was worth fighting for. Laura Hayes took her skeleton crew to Frontier Station, knowing she would not leave it alive. Danny perfected the shield penetration weapons, making them available to every ship. Dr. Phillips prepared field hospitals on a dozen worlds. Jake led combined fighter squadrons. Frontier Station hung in space like a metal flower, its defensive platforms extending outward in 6 directions. Captain Laura Hayes stood in the command center, watching the approaching armada on long-range sensors. 5,000 ships, more firepower than had ever been assembled in one place. Her skeleton crew numbered 300 volunteers. Humans, and others who understood this was a one-way mission. They would hold the station as long as possible, buying time for the main fleet to position itself for a counterattack. How long until they arrive? Laura asked. 4 hours, her tactical officer replied. Admiral confirms the fleet is in position. They're waiting for our signal. Laura looked at the faces around her. Young and old, experienced and new, all wearing the same expression. Determination mixed with fear. They knew what was coming. I want everyone to understand something, she said. What we do here matters. Every minute we hold this station is another minute for our fleet to prepare. Every ship we damage or destroy is one less threatening our homes. We're not here to die. We're here to buy victory with our lives. That's not the same thing. The crew returned to their stations with renewed focus. They checked weapons, reinforced shields, and prepared for the longest 4 hours of their lives. Aboard the flagship Defiant, Admiral watched the same sensors with growing tension. The plan was simple in theory, brutal in practice. They would attack Frontier Station first, seeing it as an obstacle to clear. While they focused on the station, the Allied fleet would strike from multiple directions, catching them in a coordinated assault. All ships report ready, Lieutenant Jake confirmed from the fighter coordination station. We're as prepared as we're going to be. Then we wait, said, and we trust Laura to do her part. In the engineering section, Danny made final adjustments to the fleet's weapons. His shield penetration technique had been installed on every Allied ship. It would not guarantee victory, but it gave them a fighting chance. Dr. Phillips waited aboard a medical frigate positioned safely behind the battle lines. Triage teams were ready. Medical supplies were stocked. She tried not to think about how many casualties they would face. The fleet arrived in battle formation. Supreme Commander Al studied Frontier Station with cold calculation. A single station, they mean to delay us. Sensors detect 300 life signs, his tactical officer reported. Minimal defenses compared to our fleet. Destroy it quickly. We have a galaxy to teach about the cost of defiance. War Architect led the vanguard forward, 400 ships moving toward the station. She expected token resistance, then a quick victory. What she got was hell. Laura Hayes waited until the ships entered optimal range. All platforms, open fire. Frontier Station's weapons unleashed a storm of destruction. Energy beams, missiles, and kinetic rounds tore into the approaching fleet. The returned fire, their superior firepower hammering the station's shields. Shields at 60%, someone called out. Keep firing, make every shot count. The station's weapons used Danny's frequency-shifting technology. Shields flickered and failed under the assault. Ships that expected easy passage found themselves fighting for survival. Watched 3 cruisers explode in the opening minutes. All ships concentrate fire on the station, destroy it immediately. But the station was built to withstand punishment. Layers of armor protected critical systems. Redundant power generators kept weapons online. As they pounded the structure, the defenders fought back with desperate ferocity. Laura moved through the command center, coordinating defenses and offering encouragement. Around her, crew members worked their stations even as the ship shook from impacts. Alarms blared, screens showed red across the board, but no one abandoned their post. Shields at 20%. Hull breaches on decks 3 through 7. We've lost platform 4. Reroute power from life support to weapons. We don't need to breathe if we're dead anyway. Watch the battle from the Defiant, his hands gripping the command chair. Laura was buying them time, but the cost was visible on every screen. The station was dying. Sir, the fleet is fully committed to the station assault, Jake reported. Their formation is fractured, now's our chance. Took a deep breath. All ships execute attack pattern Delta, hit them from every direction. The Allied Armada, 3,000 ships strong, emerged from concealment around nearby asteroids and moons. They fell on the fleet like wolves on scattered prey. The element of surprise was complete. Al's screens suddenly filled with new contacts. What is this? Where did they come from? Multiple fleets, sir. Humans, dozens of species. They were waiting for us. Impossible. How did they coordinate this? The answer came in the form of massed weapons fire. Allied ships using human tactics struck hard and fast, targeting isolated vessels. Jake's fighter squadrons dove through the chaos, their impossible maneuvers confusing enemy point defense. Danny's weapon systems performed even better than expected. Allied ships punched through shields with growing efficiency. The technological advantage that had protected the Dominion for centuries was neutralized by human ingenuity and Allied cooperation. But they were not defeated yet. Their numbers were still superior. They began reforming, trying to coordinate a counterattack. Al his commanders, ordering them to ignore the station and engage the Allied fleet. On Frontier Station, Laura saw her opportunity. All remaining weapons target the flagship, everything we have left. The station, battered and dying, focused its remaining firepower on Al's command ship. Shields flared under the assault. The flagship tried to maneuver away, but saw the opening. All ships concentrate fire on the enemy flagship. Take it down. Hundreds of Allied vessels turned their weapons on the command ship. The combined assault overwhelmed its defenses. Shields collapsed. Armor melted. The flagship began to break apart. Al broadcast one final message. The Dominion is eternal. You have won nothing. Then his ship exploded in a brilliant flash. The loss of their supreme commander sent shockwaves through the fleet. Ships began to break formation, some trying to retreat, others fighting on without coordination. The Allied forces pressed their advantage, driving deep into the lines. Found herself in command of a disintegrating fleet. Pride demanded she fight to the death, but centuries of military training told her this battle was lost. For the first time in her career, she gave the order she never thought she would speak. All ships retreat, fall back to Rally Point Omega. The fleet, once the most feared military force in the galaxy, ran from the battlefield. Allied ships pursued, harrying the retreat, destroying any vessel that lagged behind. On Frontier Station, alarms screamed as systems failed throughout the structure. The reactor was critical. Structural supports were buckling. Laura knew they had seconds, not minutes. All hands abandon station. Everyone to the escape pods now. "But Captain, you're coming too, right?" her tactical officer asked. Laura looked at the young officer and smiled sadly. "Someone needs to stay and make sure this station doesn't explode until everyone's clear. That's my job." "I won't leave you here." "That's an order, Lieutenant. Get these people out, that's your job." The crew reluctantly evacuated, leaving Laura alone in the command center. She watched her people escape, then turned her attention to the station's reactor. If she could hold it stable just a little longer, everyone would make it to safety. His voice came over the comm. "Laura, we see the evacuation. Get out of there." "Can't do that, sir. Someone needs to babysit this reactor." "Laura, that's not necessary. The battle is won." "The battle is won because 300 people bought you the time you needed. One more sacrifice won't change that math." His voice broke. "You've done enough, please. Tell Earth that Frontier Station did its job. And tell them we didn't die afraid. We died protecting everything we love." The reactor reached critical mass. Laura closed her eyes, thinking of Earth, blue and green and beautiful, worth everything. Frontier Station exploded, taking the last assault ships with it. The shockwave was visible from dozens of light seconds away. Laura Hayes died, ensuring her crew lived. The Allied fleet regrouped as the remnants fled into deep space. The battle was over. The Dominion's invincible reputation lay shattered among the debris. Stood in the command center of the Defiant, watching the tactical display clear of enemy contacts. They had won. The cost was terrible, but they had won. "Casualty reports coming in," someone said quietly. "We lost 800 ships, 15,000 dead, twice that many wounded. And the 3,000 ships destroyed. The rest are running. They lost over half their entire fleet." Around him, the crew processed the magnitude of what they had accomplished. The Dominion, conquerors of 847 star systems, had been broken by a coalition led by from a primitive world. News of the victory spread across the galaxy faster than light speed. Species that had lived under rule for decades rose in rebellion. Systems that had been conquered began fighting for liberation. The empire that seemed eternal crumbled in a matter of weeks. In reached prime with the remnants of the fleet, only 2,000 ships returned. Worse than the losses was the psychological defeat. The military, never defeated in 3 centuries, had been routed by a coalition of inferior species. The Council of Conquerors convened in emergency session. "How did this happen?" they demanded. "They united," In replied simply. "We have always conquered divided opposition. When the galaxy stood together, our advantages disappeared. Then we rebuild and strike again. With what? We have lost half our fleet. Our subject worlds are in revolt. Our reputation is destroyed. The humans proved we can be beaten. Now everyone knows it." Within months, the Dominion collapsed. Some worlds negotiated independence. Others threw off their chains by force. The empire that had lasted 300 years ended because humanity refused to kneel. Ambassador Foster addressed the reformed Galactic Council 5 years after the battle. Earth had become a major power, respected not for conquest, but for the courage to fight tyranny. The Allied coalition had become a permanent defensive pact, ensuring no single species could threaten the galaxy again. "We learned something from Earth," told the Assembly. "Harsh circumstances create strong people, but strength isn't about dominating others. It's about protecting what matters. Earth's gravity taught us to stand despite the weight. Today, the galaxy stands together because we learned that lesson." Retired from military service, unable to forget the friends he had lost, he visited Laura Hayes's family, presenting them with her medals and telling them how their daughter saved billions of lives. The memorial to Frontier Station's defenders became the most visited monument on Earth. Jake commanded a training academy, teaching pilots from across the galaxy. His lessons focused on human tactics adapted for different species. The Devils became a legendary squadron, symbolizing cooperation between worlds. Danny's innovations revolutionized galactic technology. His insights into shield harmonics and weapon systems were studied on 1,000 worlds. He established research exchanges between Earth and allied species, accelerating progress for everyone. Dr. Phillips led medical programs, improving healthcare across the galaxy. Her understanding of biology helped other species understand their own limitations and strengths. Earth's harsh environment, once seen as a disadvantage, became its greatest gift to the galaxy. Other species learned that adversity could build character, that struggles could create strength, and that sometimes the most powerful force was simple refusal to surrender. Children across hundreds of worlds learned about the battle where fate was rewritten. They learned about the species from the who stood against impossible odds. They learned that tyranny falls when good people fight back. And they learned that some victories are not measured in territory conquered, but in freedom preserved and principles defended. The Dominion's endless wins had finally ended, not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but because humanity and its allies proved that some things are worth fighting for, no matter the cost. Earth's gravity had prepared humanity for the weight of responsibility. They carried that weight, and the galaxy was better for it. Stood at the frontier station memorial years later, an old man now, his body finally feeling Earth's pull. A child approached, asking the question he answered 1,000 times. "Sir, what does it mean to be human?" Smiled, looking up at the stars where Laura and so many others had given everything. "It means when the universe says you cannot win, you fight anyway. It means when gravity tries to crush you, you learn to stand. It means refusing to kneel, even when kneeling seems logical. And most importantly, it means we never leave anyone behind." The child looked thoughtful. Did we really change the galaxy? The galaxy changed itself. We just showed everyone it was possible. That sometimes the only thing standing between freedom and tyranny is people willing to say no. He placed his hand on the memorial stone, feeling the names carved there. These people said no, and the universe listened. Final drills. And across the galaxy, the Armada began moving toward its rendezvous with destiny. The greatest space battle in history was about to begin. Galaxy, that Earth is ready to fight, and we need to find out who's willing to fight with us. The battle had been won, but the war was just beginning. "For worth dying for." "All ships," he said quietly, "engage the enemy." The two fleets collided in the space between worlds. Energy weapons lit up the darkness. Shields flared. The battle for humanity's survival had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again.